Thank you, all of you, the ones that are already here. Please don't leave before we finish. I hope you find these monthly meetings that we're trying to connect with all of you, talking for different topics that could be interesting for the nursery industry in general. And today we have the topic about disinfectants or disinfecting nursery production areas. I know this topic could be something that we can have some discussion, but at least we are going to try to summarize what are important and some highlights. For the people that don't know me, my name is Luisa Santa Maria. I'm an extension plant pathologist at the Norwillamette Research and Extension Center. We have planned this year, this series of presentations that we call Healthy Plants, Happy People. And it's 1 hour, and we try to stick in the hour. And well, this is for today. I'm going to introduce, my faculty research assistant that has been giving me all the logistic support, and she's around and all the registration things and everything that she's behind. Okay, Maria, just say your introduction and we can start.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Marlin. I'm Louisa's faculty research assistant, like she said. And I've been working with her for about 3 years. And yeah, I like to do the administrative and creative part and a little bit presenting as well. So, so here we go.
All right, and he is going to try to start their practices, so she will help me today a little bit with the presentation. All right, let's start with two basic concepts that we always think about, and even we know, but it's nice to think about what we should do before we want to disinfect. And cleaning, we know, is just the remove of any organic debris or any material that make disinfecting ineffective. So this is important step. We want to check, we want to clean like weeds, algae, litter, or anything. We can use vacuum if we want to remove that. We can use whatever you want, but we want to clean before that. Also, you know, there's always worker presence in some way that we want to remove any trash, any broken pottery, or any plants that are part of our daily work. So first, cleaning. And how we do this cleaning, after we remove all these dirty things, we need to use some tools. Sometimes we can use some brushes, the main elements that we use in cleaning could be water and soap. The next step, after we think we have done a good job cleaning, we come with the disinfecting. And you will hear several terms that sometimes can be confused, but let's use at least in this presentation, disinfecting. You can also use cleaning and sanitizing. So sometimes sanitizing and disinfecting could be interchangeable, but sanitizing sometimes is more used to remove just bacteria and use more in the food industry. But we want to call disinfecting. We're trying to clean, to use a chemical to remove most of the potential harm bacteria. So we want to remove these potential plant pathogens for surfaces that were used most of the time, or from tools or from equipment. So we want to have a clean environment before we start any of our process in plant production, okay? If you have any question, please don't hesitate to write those in the chat or raise your hand, and we're happy to answer. Now, why is cleaning and disinfectant important? So greenhouses mainly have a perfect environment for plant pathogens because of the humid conditions, because of the temperatures, that high temperatures that favor or are conducive for the growth of these, of most of the microorganisms. Some of them are pathogenic for our plants. So cleaning and disinfecting will help us to prevent the growth and the spread of these infectious microorganisms. So, and when we are in the process of preventing these pathogens, or we are also, if we're removing all these dirty material or these weeds that maybe cause other insects. So we can be doing two things at the same time, right? Preventing the presence of pathogens, but also discourage the presence of insects. As I like to say all the time, prevention is easier and cheaper in the long run than dealing with a problem after it's already there. So that is for me the best solution, the best management practices. And we are aware of all those simple steps that we can start to do as a routine. I think you can see results in the long term. Well, I'm gonna let Maria go to this section, how to clean greenhouse. She is in charge of the experiments and she knows how to do this very well now. Please go ahead, Maria. Tell us what you do.
All right. So there's a few steps to consider when you clean the greenhouse. And again, the importance is just to get rid of as much organic debris as possible to make the disinfectants more effective. So you want to first start out by removing all the plants, any belongings of the workers, anything left behind, and especially trash, both organic and inorganic trash. Take it all out of the greenhouse. And then you want to start removing dead plant material or any other sort of organic debris, not just from the floor, but from raised surfaces that you may not think about, like the roofs, the pipes, rafters, any sort of ledges, and you just want to sweep even the top surfaces to dislodge any like spider webs or insect eggs that could be hanging out up there, and just really try to remove all of the organic material as much as possible. All right, next slide.
Sorry, Maria.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't ready. Yeah, I thought you were ready. I forgot, sorry.
Okay, thanks. So next, we are going to remove unwanted plant material from elevated surfaces. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what I talked about on the previous slide, but this also involves benches, and especially if there's holes in the benches, you can have leaves and other material that's stuck in those holes. So you want to be very thorough with your cleaning there. And you also want to remove weeds, especially if they're alive, both in and around the greenhouse. And the reason weeds are very important to remove is because they can house insects that can carry pathogens, and they can also serve as alternate hosts for pathogens themselves. So there's two reasons that you really want to be vigilant about removing weeds. Okay, next slide. So then you want to remove and replace weed mats, especially if any pathogen outbreaks have occurred. You definitely can get structures, survival structures of the pathogens that can be stuck there. And then sweep walkways and use either a shop vac or a dustpan to remove all this loose debris that you now have spent time collecting. Next slide. Thank you. All right, so now all of the debris is out. And so now comes the fun part where you use water and soap and you really want to scrub. So scrub away any algae, any stubborn dirt that has remained there, any other sort of residue. And you want to make sure you hit up the walkways, walls, bench tops, tables. And then when you're done scrubbing with soap, you want to make sure everything's thoroughly rinsed. You just want to remove any soap residue and make sure that everything has been wet and wiped down. All right.
Hey, okay, you want me to continue? No, you want
to
keep going? All right. Okay, let's go to the next step, since Maria already talked about all the details about cleaning. So how to disinfect? So every nursery could have a special procedure to disinfect, depending what they are trying to disinfect, right? It is the space where you're working, benches or even plant material. So you will have a protocol. It's good to have in place that. After cleaning, so you can choose the disinfectant that you have, you want to use. So for any reason, we're going to talk really about that, but always follow the instructions of the label, right? Because some of the disinfectants will be appropriate for specific for surfaces, for tools, for trades, for plants, and even it should be some kind of equipment specific involved depending on the disinfectant that you want to use or the area that you want to disinfect. So pay attention to that details. And also we can be thinking about irrigation systems, disinfections of them. And there are some specific chemicals that could be used for that purpose. And as I said, again, I always try to remember, follow the recommendations. Now, in order to use, so disinfectants are chemicals, right? We need to always consider the personal protective equipment, all the requirements that are also in the label of the product. So follow the product labels and use appropriate effective gear when you're disinfecting. Gloves are always recommended and work in an area where you have a good airflow because, again, these are chemicals and read the product labels. Okay. How to choose the best disinfectant? What is the best chemical that we can use? We need several things to consider when we are thinking in the efficacy of the disinfectant. We need to think what is that if we want to have a target pathogen. So maybe we need to look for specific things that will kill fungi or bacteria or even a virus. There are a few disinfectants that are including virus in that. So we need to consider that, especially in surfaces. Then we can like type of surface, what kind of surface we want to disinfect. So it's a bench with a wooden bench. Okay, we will talk about that. We want to consider also, and I think it's important for all of us, the cost of chemical. And the other thing important is the product shelf life. Whatever is associated with health hazards. If there is a chemical that is really efficient, but is going to be a health hazard, maybe we don't want to consider that one. Or we want to consider if we have a real something that we need to do it, but we need to consider that too. And as I said, equipment that could be used for application. And one of the most important things for me, it is the contact time. How long do things have to be in contact with this product to be efficient, to do the right work? We're going to talk about the most common active ingredients in disinfectants. So I'm not all of you are familiar with this, but here are the ones. Quaternary ammonium. That is one of the most common active ingredients. I will let you know at the end what could be my favorite, but still we need all of them have some positive or negative or cons and pros and cons. And okay, the other active ingredient is hydrogen dioxide, chlorine, bleach, and alcohol. So when we're talking about quaternary ammonium, we have several brands related with this, and maybe there are more, but these are the ones we are familiar with. Is Green Shield, 520, Clean Grow. And I don't know exactly about prices and how approachable are economically these ones, but I can tell you that one of them, 520, I have used for a long time, and I really like it. It's really good one. And I have done several in vitro tests and always really effective against Phytophthora and other fungi. Okay, I will talk. I will give you a specific example from some of our trials. These quaternary ammonium, they have a wide spectrum. That means they can be used from viruses, bacteria, fungi, and algae. So it's a good one. So we can kill several things at the same time, right? That's what we want. But we always need to remember these disinfectants are not protectants, and they have a little residual activity. Always, as I said, we need to consider the contact time, and usually is between 10 to 15 minutes. So always treated for at least an hour. That means you have to let that grow, be active for at least 1 hour. No one traffic in the hallways if you have disinfect with these products. Um, is not needed. There is no need to wash or rinse after this has been applied. It should be there, be in contact with the product. Sometimes some of the products that you can see some foam, right? That is one of the kind of the product itself, how it produces these just is part of the chemical to get at other to the microorganisms or organic matters. As we said, at that reason, we highlighted at the beginning about the importance of cleaning before to apply any disinfect. We want to reduce as much organic matter as we can with any of these products, because that will inactivate the action of any of these active ingredients. Some of products, some brands will say in the label that it could be used directly as the concentration is, depending if you want to disinfect seeds or cuttings of plants. And I think some of the products are used for disinfect plants, plant material. One of these with quaternary ammonium. So that is a good advantage. The other active ingredient is a hydrogen peroxide. Some of the common brands are xylitol, oxidate, sanidate, and I have seen that this product is used widely in most of the nurseries, xylitol mainly. And it's a good product. And I think sanidate is more for food places, for the kind of people where they do harvesting plant vegetables, things like that, they try to use that. Okay. What we know and we recommend is to use immediately after it has been prepared, following the label. It has a short life nature, so will degrade with organic matter, and could be good for disinfect benches, pots, tools, surfaces, trays, and also plants. As then I said, as in any other product, the organic matter would decrease the efficacy of the product. Usually, these products shouldn't be mixed with fertilizer or pesticides. It could be harmful if applied directly to crops without the proper label instruction. Contact time, at least 10 minutes to be effective, and the range of efficacy about microorganisms is bacteria. I don't know, but it's said in some place that for virus too, but I haven't proved that personally, and less for fungal or fungal spores. Chlorine bleach, that is something we usually use to disinfect pots or flats, but sometimes it's not recommended to clean walls, floor, or benches. And the reason that we can think about that is because some walls or floors are painted and could be some corrosive reaction with the bleach and the paint. So that would be one of the reasons. Or also the material, for example, in benches, you have metal benches that could be corrosive if you use for a long time. It's not specifically registered for use in greenhouses, but likely is use is corrosive and will degrade plastic or metal if it is used frequently. One of the main things recommended is should be used as soon as it's prepared, because this especially chlorine bleach could be degraded or denatured by light. So you have to prepare and immediately use as you want. What the benefit of these products with is that are cheap and really are effective. We like to use these especially to disinfect equipment, like these emitters, we like to use a concentration of 10% that is recommended. And I have also used concentrations of 20%, but when I really want to disinfect roots, for example, when I'm doing some experiment, I use the double concentration. But 10% is recommended to disinfect this kind of material or disinfect pots. What we have to consider contact time, and this is around 30 minutes. Then we can rinse, we should rinse that. We don't want any residual of bleach in this equipment, especially it's going to be for irrigation. Usually it has been used as the best choice for wooden benches because maybe can penetrate, and since it can have some residual, maybe it has still longer action inside of the process, but I still, well, I don't know, but that would be the best recommendation in this kind of benches if you have wooden benches. And it's, yeah, used in well ventilated area, and also I will recommend always wear gloves when we're working with this. Alcohol, one of my favorites when you're working with, you want contact, immediate action. So alcohol kills in contact, but also we want to consider, I don't know if you have think about you can find different concentrations of isopropyl alcohol. Have you noticed that, right? And sometimes some people think because it says 95% is going to be more effective, but not. The most effective concentration is 70%. That's one of the questions that I used to ask my students in the past. Why is efficient? 70%, but not 95%. And one of the reasons of this is, first, 95%, this is more pure alcohol, will evaporate faster, and we won't have enough contact with the cells that we want to kill, with the bacteria. And also maybe they will cover the cells, but then after it's desactivated, so it doesn't have enough time to degrade the proteins of that bacteria. So the bacteria will have no damage after that. The 70% has 70% alcohol and 30% of water. The water will help to, to interact with the proteins, and the alcohol will have efficient activity to degrade the proteins and kill the cells. So it's the most effective with bacteria, less with viruses, and with fungal spores. In fungal spores, we'll have a thicker cell wall or structures that will be hard to get. But for bacteria and viruses, could be the most efficient if we do that. Well, the negative or hazardous part is that it's flammable, has flammable properties. So we need to be careful with that. But here, for example, if we want to sterilize tools, right? I usually have a burner, and then then is when I use 95% alcohol, because that will burn faster because it's a pure thing. So when I want to sterilize some tools, I use 95% because I can flame that. I use the base of the alcohol at that point. Here is a list of the most common disinfectants that I use for tools, equipment in greenhouses and nurseries. Some disinfectants are not labeled for greenhouse and nurseries, but still we use them in some concentrations. And the source, and I think you can get this as an interesting source that was published in 2021. And you can see all the products we just mentioned, right? All the active ingredients on the name of the trademark products and the concentration, and some of them, the Saniday, for example, or Posiday, Cerotol, they have the label recommended for horticulture tools in this case, in this specific example. Maria did this cute little graphic for me. This is the mode of action of the disinfectants. We want to understand how they, to me, I think this is need to understand how they act. What is the difference if I decide to choose chlorine versus hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide will will destroy the internal parts of the cell. After go in the cell, they will destroy all the particles, all the things, the molecules that are going to form proteins or things like that. If the cell doesn't have that, they cannot regenerate, they cannot multiply, right? Also, for example, chlorine, what is so efficient, I guess, is because it destroyed the DNA, so it doesn't allow the cell to reproduce in any way. So destroying that material will kill immediately the cells. And when chlorine go inside of the cell, also will destroy the critical proteins, and also depending on the microorganisms, the bacteria will denaturalize the external cells, but it's in a square here, and will weaken that, and maybe it will make easier to the product to go inside and destroy the internal proteins. Quaternary ammonia will attack all the components on the cell membrane, that is kind of the barrier of the cell, and then everything, if this destroy the cell wall, is destroy the barrier, nothing inside will stay. And alcohol will denature the proteins and will lead to the collapse of the cell wall. So the cells without this barrier that protects from the external environment will die and no chance to multiply. Some additional tips for cleaning and disinfectant. Well, we need to, if we keep things organized and neat, that will be easier to maintain that and clean. One of the recommendations is wash hands prior to handling soil, plants, and equipment. Ensure diseased plants are removed immediately or as soon as we scout for signs of disease on other plants. Install with barriers, which we already mentioned a couple of times already, that we don't want to have them because they could be the host of insects. Some insects could be vectors of pathogens into the greenhouse. So we don't want weeds, we don't want insects, we don't want pathogens. So 3 things we can kill at the same time. Another thing that I like people to think about is whatever surfaces we have around just in the floor or the surfaces that we work, think about if they are easy to clean and sanitize and disinfect. Wood benches are harder to clean. So if you have the chance to put something metal or some other surface that is easy to clean, that will be a big benefit for your place, your nursery. Avoid in any way poor surfaces, especially working benches. I have seen working benches where they're cracked and even they try to disinfect, it's hard to keep them clean. So we need to think about surfaces all the time. What happened in the gravel? How can we'll be able to disinfect? That will be easier, right? But sometimes I will recommend to use bleach. That will be the most efficient. Mats, floor mats, bleach will be good to disinfect after cleaning. I'm thinking that this is a device that maybe you are familiar or not, but these boots, shoes, brushes, they are really useful to me because they will reduce a lot of soil, even going inside your office or inside, more about inside of the greenhouse. We need to remove that so that we know that we can carry some pathogens in the soil, definitely soil-borne pathogens, and we don't want to move, especially in some areas where we are trying to produce plants, propagation areas. So we want to be try to use as much as we can of things to remove that organic matter. And again, this organic matter will deactivate the disinfectant. So we need to get rid of that. Let me see here. Okay, I'm gonna give you, I'm not sure if I have showed this before, but this is an example of the use of disinfectants trying to kill microsclerotia of boxwood blight. In this specific experiment, they use all the chemicals that I have mentioned to you, bleach, ethanol, Lysol, that would be the quaternary ammonium, Sanidate, that is still quaternary ammonium, Xylitol, and they have a control here. The control is kind of not any disinfectant, and is a gray line that you didn't even see that is in the top, but kind of, I hope you can see that. But one of the important things from this trial or experiment was the contact time, the time that these microsclerotia were exposed to these disinfectants. So were 0, 5, 10, and 15 minutes. And the most effective um, um, to kill micro or deactivate a microsclerotia. Deactivate, I mean they couldn't reproduce or germinate later. Was here the triangle you see is ethanol. So ethanol in this example or this case study was one of the most efficient after even after 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes. But then the second one, this diamond shape, it is what is that one? I can see that Xylitol. So Xylitol is in second good one, but you see the contact time is 15 minutes. So in 5 minutes, it's okay. 10 minutes, it's better. But if you put in contact time for 15 minutes, it's more efficient. So yes, so the one that didn't work very well was, what was the one? And be the triangle bleach in the case of the microsclerotia. Well, I'm talking about microsclerotia, right? Just to remind you what is the microsclerotia. These are resistant structures that these pathogen of the box could lie colony with this pseudonaviculat, it's hard to pronounce now, infect leaves and can survive for long time. And this is how they look when we culture them. And these are these black structures that makes the pathogen survive in the soil and leave tissue for a long time, sometimes even years. And it has been people that students that have count this, and they can even find more than 3,000 microsclerosis per leaf. So thinking in that is what the idea to using disinfectants could be a way to kill them, as those are the results that I just showed you. Okay, let's talk about the shelf life of how long disinfectants will stay, be viable or useful after they have diluted or after you have prepared the solutions following the label. What are the short answer is they are going not to be forever. We cannot prepare a solution for 2 years and store, not do that. One of the main factors that will affect the efficacy or life of these products is the sunlight, is the pH, the depending of the water that we are using, that will maybe change the pH. And also very important, temperature where you store your product. So there are some products that could be stored for sometime, 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, and still efficient, but more than that, it wouldn't be. And a few years ago, we did an experiment using different storage areas and different temperatures, because I have seen that sometimes bleach, just the bleach, I have seen in greenhouses where it's really hot, and then it's used as a disinfectant. Maybe at that time that disinfectant doesn't work at all. So we need to always save our chemicals in a place where its temperature is more stable, kind of room temperature, and not hot. So even I think most of the places know exactly how to use chemicals. But just I'm telling you what this was an experiment that I did using Xylitol, Phison, and what we did was like collect every other day, I don't remember, and sampling and see if it is still efficient or not to disinfect. And then we played it. We were with bacteria, with fungi, and then and water as a control. And you can see we determined that xylitol decreased after 48 hours. So after 48 hours, a solution of xylitol was not effective in any of the storage environments that we had. The most efficient was 2020, and it lasts for around 4 weeks, for 4 weeks. And then our recommendation was like, okay, it works for 4 weeks. So it was like about 28 days exactly. And but it still was recommended to, the sooner you prepare, the sooner you use. But Faisan could stay longer for use. Here's an example of one of the bacteria after 28 days. You still can see around this inhibition halo. That means that the product cannot get to that part, right? So this is an area still the bacteria can survive, but I'm sorry, the disinfectant had an action. So here with water, you see all the surface was covered by bacteria, but here with the flies, and after 28 days, still you see some inhibition that doesn't allow the bacteria to grow. Over here, another one was a small test that I did, but it was too many chemicals in the same place that it's hard to see. But still, here the Physan 20 P20 was one of the best immediately and worked nice, just as an additional reference. When we know we use chlorine bleach, but we need to think that this is one of the most sensitive products that is affected for environmental factors. And if half-life of this product will be 2 hours. So in 4 hours, it's not usable at all. And if you are if you are thinking to use bleach in your food bags when you're going to someplace, you need to replace that, considering the traffic that you have coming in and out and the organic matter that is going to stay in those, and also considering that in the presence of the light, it will degrade faster. Well, let's go to cleaning and disinfecting containers. Well, usually it will be better not to reuse containers, but we understand we need to do it sometimes. But if we do the right protocol, we still can use them. I think we should do that. Well, if you need to clean them and then thoroughly disinfect them. We first will, of course, cleaning sometimes could be harder if we have some soil. And definitely I wouldn't use any of the containers if we know they had sick plants, just for prevent. Would be more work to discard those pots if you were sure you had some disease on them. What we do, and especially, it's just rinse whatever is the dirt first, and then we use brushes and we use soap and water. And then after that, we submerge them in chlorine solutions, a chlorine solution of 10%. And then we rinse the containers and let them dry. We have mentioned other times that there are some non-chemical approach, and that was, to me, the most efficient if you have, especially if you have many pots to clean, and that could be steaming. So just this nice thermometer here. What is the temperature, whether we can kill these pathogens? It's most of the bacteria, viruses, and insects will die at 140 Fahrenheit. And then, yeah, weeds, they need more, seeds need more temperature. Well, but steam has been considered one of the most effective ways to clean and disinfect containers, especially we want to reuse. But as I said, cleaning and disinfecting with the right way and the right contact time will be efficient too. Now, it's nice to to have this chance to disinfect, but in order we know that cleaning will be okay, then disinfect. But if we can avoid some things to get the not super dirty things, that will help us to have a most efficient action of the disinfectants. For example, one of the things we sometimes don't consider important, but it's super important in a greenhouse is the hoses. Sometimes they can be in the ground, directly in contact of splashing water or things like that, in directly contact with the ground or the soil. So we need to keep them always nozzles are uh, out of the ground surfaces. Um, One of the things sometimes we do is just we pull the hoses and we carry soil and plant debris and think about it. We want to clean and disinfect, maybe it's going to be harder. When you're doing hand watering, ensure water one is always keep above of the plant canopy. Tools, well, we need to clean our tools. They have been proved they can move bacteria, they can move fungi, mycelia to plant. So we need to be careful and we need to have some clean and disinfectant protocols in place and do it as much as we can. If you are pruning plants, maybe after a row, you have to clean them and disinfect. There are different ways to disinfect these tools, but there's here like power washing, depending if you is like a work equipment in the field, and soaking in hot water, some tools, a paint thinner for sap. I'm not that sure about that one. um, and well, don't forget to sanitize this time is disinfect, right? Sometimes we can use disinfectant wipes when we are in the field. I like to do that actually. Some Lysol Clorox wipes will help to disinfect your tools. Keep working with them in the field. I already talked about the flame sterilization. That could be an effective method. Will kill more of the microorganisms in your tools. We can also steam or soak in disinfectants that we already mentioned. Continue with these good practices is these food brushes that I already mentioned, food bags and shoes. Usually these brushes should be placed at the entrance of all the propagation of production areas. Food bags could be an excellent way to reduce the number of microbes or shoes before entering the new area. As I said, the disinfectant should be changed at least daily or when the solution comes visibly clouded. This is a picture from some place that I visit. And even, it's not in this country for sure, but they were trying to do that. But the terrible thing to me was they tried to use this right inside, but inside was a lot of nothing was like concrete or something like easy to clean, was still soil, but it was interesting to me. So it was an interesting picture to mention right now. Employee sanitation and humans. We can spread pathogens definitely, and we cannot forget to clean and disinfect our hands. So having facilities for employees to do this properly, it's really important. They need to know the wash soap and water, be available all the time to wash their hands, especially they are changing activities or they are changing propagation crops. So they're doing different activities. They need to wash their hands. And we have some kind of a list where employees should wash hands. It's before, beginning at work, planting any material, touching a new probe, mixing hot and soil, entering propagation areas, and after. So this is something that we should include in our trainings with our workers when they have to wash their hands. So they need to remember that. That is important. So all these best management practices will help us to prevent, and even we do the cleaning and sanitation will be more efficient. So employee training is always important, and ensure that workers understand why or how they can spread diseases to, when they're working. And one of the concepts that I always like to teach is about the disease triangle. That is the pathogen, the environment, and the host have to interact to have the disease. But if we don't have enough amount of pathogen, we are breaking that triangle. Or, we are doing the right best management practices. We won't have disease, even if they have the host. Clean growing areas, clean and tidy, plant debris, use the proper trash cans, always have lids in your trash cans, because they can blow with the air. I don't know, some insects stay in the plant material. So it's always good to keep a lid in our trash cans. And as I said, well, these areas that have to be cleaned. Not sanitized, but at least cleaned often, I guess. And vehicles and roadways, that is something that needs a lot of work, I said. We need to clean and sanitize in some way our equipment, the field equipment. It's really important, because you can be moving soil from one place to other, and you can be carrying many things, not just soil, but the soil with the pathogens, right? They can go through standing water that could be kind of a source of other microorganisms, and we're moving from one place that could be contaminated to others. So we need to do that. It's always good to have an area where the vehicles could be clean, and also the vehicles, I think I have seen that in many places, they have just assigned areas where the delivery vehicles should park, or designed areas for parking. So that it is something important to consider. Now, I just want to mention something that we have been working since last year. And, this is Nostoc. It is your nemesis to highlight that. But we wanted just to prove that cleaning and disinfecting could be a good option and sustainable option without use too much harm chemicals. And, we wanted, just since this microorganism, it is really a bacteria, it's not an algae, it's not a weed. And this nostoc is considered a weed. I don't know why, because it looks like a weed, but it's not. It's a beautiful, can I say that beautiful? I said beautiful because has so nice. It's a group of different cyanobacteria. These are photosynthetic bacteria that live together in a mat, that you're familiar with that, right? It grows in the nursery, lawn environments with poor drainage, like you can see here, usually when you have a lot of water. And also it has ample nutrients, and places where you have a lot of irrigation or long hours of irrigation. In those roads, you will see this. And I have seen more, especially in the gravel. The color of this nostril could be from green, brown to black, blue colors with a jelly-like consistency. And this is kind of more than a nuisance for the nurseries, because could be slippery for workers, and that would be really a hazard, right? So we want to get rid of that. And I know it's only in Oregon, it's around the country they have this problem. And well, we wanted to do just a small experiment, and we wanted to test what will happen if we clean and then we disinfect. So Nostoc can enter any area through tools, boots, vehicles, and irrigation systems. So we really believe that cleaning and disinfecting will help to prevent or control at least these to expand in your nurseries. What we did was just, we set a block and we clean one section of this really nice area covered by nostoc, and the other side we one didn't clean. So one side we cleaned, the other side we didn't clean. And after that, we apply Xylitol or Phison to all the area. So the cleaning and not cleaning, the same thing. And we repeat the treatment after 1 week, right? 2 weeks, 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks, I'm sorry, yes. And then we apply the second time, and that was it. Even when we had in this area all the time, like we didn't change any irrigation schedule, so these area were covered with water all the time. And well, what do we consider to prevent the presence of these is to improve drainage, reduce low lying areas that can collect water. It hasn't been mentioned that solarization and flying towers will work, but it's not completely practical for all the situations in the nursery. So that's the reason we're doing this, thinking that maybe long term and depending on how you decide to apply will work. So this is just a graphic that summarizes our results from last year. So as I said, we did this cleaning, and the other side we didn't clean at all. We applied the disinfectant, and then we repeated after 14 days, and this result didn't change after 2 months of initiating the treatment. And this area had like 8 hours daily irrigation. So you can see the results. This really it doesn't have any statistic difference among the disinfectants that we use. We use Phison, we use Xylitol, we use bleach and Clean Grow. But it's the result of the areas we apply the disinfectant, nothing grow back in 2 months. So if we can do this cleaning first and apply and maintain, I don't know, that will be important. And also consider all the things we said, that we can move with our shoes, I think one of the best ways that I can see that in nurseries has been spread is because of the vehicles or the people walking over without cleaning. And in order to have this kind of growth in a place, it needs some months. It's not, they don't grow that fast. So we need to consider that too. So they are slow growers if they have the right conditions. So to get to this point, to get these mats, needs some months to grow. So, well, this is kind of our neat result about cleaning and sanitation. We are repeating this year, and we will see whether the results, and maybe we're going to check those longer after the treatment to see how long we can stay without doing any maintenance. But if we repeat, I'm assuming that if we repeat applying the disinfect every 2 months, we can maintain the area clean, or we can control the growth, definitely. That's what we're thinking. Let's see. All right, so you have any questions, I will happy to answer. I want to thank our intern this year, Manon, for help us for all the nice pictures, of Maria too, and to help us to build this presentation. And then it comes some questions here, difficult questions. I'll be happy to hear from you. Maybe you're tired to hear from me right now. Yes, let's do a quiz. Problem and solution. What would you do in this case? It's not a right and perfect answer. It's what I would like to hear from some of you. You are nice with me and answer.